For me, when I look at just the different storylines, I have a little bit more than five, to be honest with you. But to me, the big ticket items is obviously what number three is going to do. How he goes out there and he commands that offense. Didn't have OTAs, didn't have minicamp. Got a lot of young players that you're also relying on. One of the guys that you're going to really rely on, he's also a rookie this year in Cushenberry. So I'm looking at how that relationship is going to really work hand in hand with Drew Lock and Lloyd Cushenberry. But the Lindsey Gordon situation, that's definitely
Yeah.
interesting as well. How much with how this is being ramped up now and just kind of really having 28 days of where you're really running your offense and really getting after it. And we know in those 28 days the Broncos have days off. So how does that look week 1, week 2, week 3, once the season kicks off as far as playing time? Bowles and James are going to be interesting, but also Bowles, James, and Elijah Wilkinson, right? Because Elijah Wilkinson's competing at the left tackle position. So how does that competition look? And is it a true competition? But as well, when you do have your starting tackles, how much is Juwan James going to play this year? So that's got to be a big one. The one that I don't think that a lot of people, well, two things that I don't think a lot of people are looking at, or but I am really looking at is how much more comfortable Vic Fangio is going to be on the sideline this year. Year two, obviously, we're hoping that it ramps up, and how much is he going to be paying attention to the offense? Because a lot of times last year it kind of seemed like it was very disinterested. Is he talking to his players on the sideline? Because last year we saw that as well. It seemed like he only was talking to 1 and 2 defensive coaches and kind of just
Yep.
let the team do their own thing. So that's another interesting story to me. But the biggest story, the biggest storyline for me that I'm interested to see is the dynamic between Shula and Sherman. What is going to happen with that? Being that you didn't have OTAs, you didn't have minicamp, training camp looks so much differently. You're going to have so many different new starters in your offense, right? A Graham Glasgow, a Lloyd Cushenberry. You got Noah Fant that's in his year 2 trying to learn your offense. Cortland Sutton going in year 3, but this is his third offense. But as well as KJ Hamler, Jerry Jeudy, those guys, and Melvin Gordon coming here. Is Pat Shurmur now going to say, you know what, screw it. I'm not going in the box. I'm going to be on the sideline. I have my trusted guy in Shula that I've worked with for so many years. I'm going to put him up in the box. And now Shurmur's on the sideline because he can communicate with all aspects of offense, quarterback, running back, tight ends, offensive line, where Shula's just a quarterback coach. So do they switch roles where Shurmur's now on the field and Shula's up in the box, and because of their working relationship has been so good and so well, and they've worked together for years.
Yeah, I think one point has to be the Pat Shurmur offense gelling, and how quickly will that happen? And we know on paper the Broncos look to be much improved with Locke and Sutton and Jeudy and Hamler and Fant and Gordon and Lindsey, and we may be leaving 1 or 2 guys out. Longtime coach, Pat Shurmur's done this for many years. He was around in 2011 when there was a lockout that wiped out most of the offseason. I do think there are more variables here, and one of them involves the players back in 2011. Yeah, they were shut out of the facility, but they could still work out at various gyms. This summer and during the spring, that was a lot harder. I would agree with you wholeheartedly, and those are points that we were focused on last year regarding Vic Fangio's demeanor on the sideline and the absence of real contact. Here's a guy been up in the booth for virtually every season going back to 1986. Once or twice he had been down on the sidelines, but for the most part he had been in the booth. He himself said, especially early on in the preseason, it would take some adjusting. And I thought that sort of played out during the course of the year. At one point, he said, I shouldn't have brought the subject up to begin with. He got tired of getting asked questions about it, but he got asked questions about it because he had made it an issue himself. He had brought it up first, and especially when the Broncos are starting 0-4, you were looking for a lot of signs as to why things were going badly. Bradley Chubb coming back. I think that's a big story. But this defense has to make plays. We talk about the offense needing to make more big plays. Defense needs to make more plays.
Takeaways and sacks.
Force more turnovers.
Yeah, takeaways and sacks, right? You got to see that early and often. We talked about the Rockies, right? For almost, it seemed like, for the first hour. But just getting off to a fast start, looking at what Daniel Barr did, right? And looking at what Kyle Freeland did.
Right.
And even Trevor Story, right? Hitting the first home run. Getting off to a fast start. That's what this defense has to be able to do. And especially with this young offense, the defense needs to approach training camp right now saying, hey, we're the strong point of this team right now. Our playbook is so much more condensed. We have a lot of guys that have played in this defense, and even the guys that haven't played in this defense, they've played those techniques before, where defense is not a timing thing. Just go out there and, you fit the right way in the defense and understand exactly what your responsibilities are, and you're going to be able to be successful. But the defense has to come out from day one creating sacks and finding ways to create turnovers, because offensively, I feel like truly there's going to be a little bit of that struggle period. I don't think that it's enough time at all, even with training camp starting. And I really think this offense is really going to struggle for the simple fact that they're not going to have preseason games. But also what the defense needs to come out there and do is make sure that they're – I don't know how you do it either, Sandy, but they have to make sure that they're tackling machines. You cannot go into games where you're coming out of games now where there was 10 missed tackles. And a large part of that is going to be because you don't have preseason games, but – that's why coaches get paid a lot of money to coach, right? You got to find a way to implement different drills that when you do play week one against Tennessee Titans, and you're going against Derrick Henry, and don't think that he ain't coming in here with a chip on his shoulder because of what the Broncos defense did to him last year as well. So he's going to be looking for some vengeance, but the defense has to find a way to get that big body down and not have a ton of missed tackles as well.